Hello, and welcome to episode 471 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And he's wearing a trucker cap, but he ain't no trucker. He's a bad mother. It's Tony Esmond.
Hello.
Why you?
When did I get this hat? When did I get it?
LSCC.
Yes, it was the really disastrous one. Oh, what year was that? What year was the disastrous one? Was it
you got to say it's the last year of LSC.
Was it 2017 or 2018?
Yeah, got to be in it.
Yeah. So it's a disastrous one. It was a great day. It was
great for us.
Oh, yeah.
We had a laugh.
Great.
I left sex notes for everyone in their pencil cases.
Yeah. Plus, I came away with a ton of Valiant graphic novels. Which
that's right.
And that was the logo that you had on your cap. Tony, wasn't
it? It was.
Wasn't it?
So, yeah.
Do you think we should talk about Valiant Comics a little bit more?
Maybe in a minute.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. Another great idea is thanking you, lovely listeners, for listening to this show. Welcome to another week load of comic talk nonsense. We've got a lot of exciting books and stuff to talk about this week.
I got very excited this week.
Totally, for good reason.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you get excited every week, Tony. Just about comics, though. Right?
Not like that.
No.
Right.
Well, it depends on the book. But, I mean, the weather was...
Depends if the missus is out.
Oh, dear. I'm jonesing for comics because I've been reading a lot of them. Like I said the other day, the weather wasn't that great, so I can't do any gardening. Yeah, I've gotten to that age, so I just got out the iPad, booted up an app, and started reading comics. But what app did I boot up, guys?
Global Comics.
Global Comics.
I did indeed.
I did some gardening yesterday. My missus said to me, "Can I make a trellis on Friday night?" And I said, all right. So I'm building this trellis for the garden wall. This is nothing to do with Global Comics, by the way. And it was it started to rain. And I got, you get like really pissed off.
Yeah.
And at that point, my missus came out and told me that it was raining. And why am I still building the trellis?
Yeah.
That's helpful, isn't it?
It's going to get fucking built and it's raining. I don't give a shit. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway. Do you like trellises? You can find them on Global Comics.
Real American heroes.
I tell you what, trellises are wonderful for your plants to grow, and your comic collection will grow massively, and your comics reading will grow massively.
Nice.
If you use Global Comics, our lovely sponsor. By the way, thanks to them for listening through these very unprofessional sponsorship ads. Dreadful.
Awful ads, awful.
Awful because we're awful. But the service is amazing because there's a huge library of titles available to read from thousands of indie creators to hundreds of publishers like Image Boom, Tokyo Pop, TKO Studios, Source Point Press, Humanoids, Dynamite, Mad Cave, just to name a few. There's more and more being added all the time. And we're always on the lookout for new stuff that's hitting there. What have you noticed this week, chaps?
Can I promote again the book Firepower by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney?
That's a good one.
Have you finished it yet, Vince?
I binged it all on. I think I binged up into. I think have they just
you did the first 3 quarters, didn't you, or something? Is that right?
Did they just add the last volume?
Yeah.
Because I think I binged all of it apart from the last volume, which hadn't been added yet. So I think I read it on elsewhere, and now it's all available, isn't it?
I think it's all there now, isn't it? Yeah, the last issue.
So good.
I read it physical, and I'm going to reread it again. Little bit starts off like amazing. Do you remember the prologue graphic novel we all got?
Yeah, see, I checked out after the prologue, but I should go back to it.
Yeah, you should. Little bit of a slow burn mid-story. But when it gets to the end, you think... I think it was me and Alan Purdy were talking about how in the middle of it it dipped a bit in the middle. Seems to be going round in circles. But by the end of it, you're like, fucking hell. It's a really good ending. It's also like huge. A triple-sized ending.
It got like... I didn't expect the scope of it to get so big. But it's interesting though. I mean, reading habits always interesting because for me the prologue was great, but that was one of the slower things for me because there's a lot of building in that. There's a lot of world building and setup, so it was a little slower.
I think the thing about the prologue for me is you're right, but it was the Samney art that lifted it for me. In the
Samney he's a spiritual being, isn't he? What he can do with a couple of lines is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. He's the spiritual ancestor for descendant of Toth, isn't he? I think.
Yeah.
If you say Alex Toth, Johnny Cannon arrives. He's like a magical being. Yeah, there he is. But But he is really, isn't he? They like that less is more thing. Strip everything you don't need out, and it's there.
But saying that less is more, and then you get a creative team like they got on Firepower to like do the colouring and everything, but to know the levels of what to add and what not to add. I think there's a real collaboration on that book that fucking soars by the end of it, isn't it?
It's basically Iron Fist, really.
Excellent, yeah.
But done by Kirkman and Samney, and it's just brilliant. Better than Iron Fist.
Done well.
Yeah.
What about you, Dan?
Well, go Power Rangers. You can go
Right,
and read
calm
them
down. Keep it to yourself. You don't need to
Global
shout
Comics. They've got a whole slew of Power Ranger comics, which they're currently showing off. We've got the Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers Recharged, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the Power Rangers. There's absolutely friggin' loads.
I would say Power Rangers for me is one of those sort of like IPs or whatever franchises or whatever you want to call it, and it came it was like just after my time in that sort of bubble. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, But there's a Legion, probably one of the biggest fandoms. One of the biggest.
I only ever saw it. Yeah, got to be in it. I only ever saw it when I was off my face. It's
well, and Jesus Christ, and you're still here now.
That original series was like fucking weird. Like Jesus Christ.
Well, it's weird because they had to splice in American footage with the Japanese stuff that had already been filmed. So it was an oddity because then they'd be fighting in America and then they transform into the suits and suddenly they're in downtown Tokyo.
But the monsters they fight are just like
bizarre.
In some sort of canyon like Cheddar Gorge or something.
Here's one. I might be talking out my arse here, but how does American comics tie into the origin of Power Rangers?
Oh, I don't know.
Go on. I'm looking forward to this, even if he is talking out of his arse.
Toei were licensed back in the 70s, 80s to do a live-action Spider-Man TV show.
Right.
The Japanese Spider-Man. And in that, he's got a massive robot called Lepardon, which is a giant
leopard.
Say that again.
Lepardon. Not quite like that. It's something like leopard something.
Leopardon.
So basically, you can call
leopard's hard on.
Leopard's hard.
Where is this going?
Or is it a leopard's hard on?
Something like that.
That won't be a won't be a rap along.
So
has it got spots on it as well?
The robot.
That's why you can't see it when it's hiding in a bush.
It's like if you shave a tiger, he's got stripes, isn't he, on his skin?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Sorry, you don't want to give that a go. You crack on. Yeah, so basically, this series they kind of like the format of a guy running around in a latex suit, kicking people up in the air, and they decided to make their own, and that's where the Super Sentai came along, and they became what we know as Power Rangers.
Oh, that's cool. I bet Global Comics are well pleased with this.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the textbook.
I tell we all learned something. I tell you one thing, because I'm going to mention a title on Global Comics that I read, as I said to the chaps. Nailbiter from Image Comics.
Oh, yeah, you read the whole of that, didn't you?
Because they've got the 3 omnibus volumes, which are the murder editions, which Nailbiter, for those who don't know, is about... It's like a crime... It's a serial killer crime story. There's a titular sort of a serial killer, but it's a town that keeps breeding serial killers. So why is that? And it starts off smaller, gets bigger and bigger. And
like Blackpool.
Very much, yeah. And much like, not to the scope of like Firepower, but it's a story that by the end I was like, fucking hell, this has gotten quite... This is a big story. But I could... The omnibuses are like 300 pages each. So I was like...
Is that on Global Comics, is it?
That's Global Comics, yeah. The big... And they're glorious looking... they're like red covers. They've got like pretty horrific sort of looking covers.
That's the one that you sent through that's got like the X-ray thing looking at. Oh, that's a good cover, isn't it?
Yeah, all 3 of the omnibuses are like that. And it's all there. The story's completed and there's like nice back matter of sketches, script to page sort of things. Yeah, there's loads of cool stuff like that. So
it's been a good week for covers. I've been like I sent you that Dan Mora cover today. And there's that, and we might come to this soon, but that Bloodshot cover I sent you as well.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah,
nice. Love that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times on Global Comics I think I'll quickly read this book. So this is good. How long is this? Oh, it's 386 pages. Okay. Probably a quick read on this one.
Yeah. But well worth it. And there's loads of other stuff on the Global Comics app.
There's Valiant. You can read Valiant on there as well, can't you?
Yeah, with the app, as well as like Ghost Machine as well, which I've been catching up on Geiger.
Of course,
and stuff.
yeah.
I still need to read Redcoat. I need to catch up on that one. Yeah.
Transformers, that's all on there.
Oh,
Been updated over the
so
weekend.
much stuff on there. And with the app, not only can you read all of these great comics, but you can follow creators, set reading status filters, release notifications for your books, which I'm always, now that I'm following some series, I've got like a little list of like the latest issues just been added, and it's so great that I can just be like, oh great, I can catch up on Something's Killing the Children. You know, it's just, which I did this weekend. I just rinsed through 3 books. And there's so much more you can do. Also, if you happen to be a creator yourself, you can publish your digital comics for free. They offer loads of great tools for indie creators to help with publishing, marketing, and more. So whether you're an average comics reader, creator, or maybe you're someone new to the hobby and just want to check out some great stories, Global Comics is the place for you. And thank you to them. All jokes aside, thank you to them for sponsoring the show, as always. Now
we're there. The subject we're about to tackle is massively on Global Comics as well.
Yeah.
So we mentioned a book in a minute called The Valiant. That's on there. You name it, Rye, Armorclads, Visitor, Quantum Woody. It's all on there, man. You can get on there. Yeah.
So, you know, if you've been listening to this show for a period of time, we don't expect you to listen from episode 1, but if you have, God fucking bless you. That's a lot.
Welcome.
That's a lot of your life wasted. But
not ours.
Not ours. Because as soon as we finish an episode, we've completely forgotten what we're talking about. But but we have over the years many times talked about Valiant Comics and the Valiant universe. It's something that away from all the these bigger publishers, this sort of corner of comics has always been of interest. And certainly, we're very interested in it, and we've grown to love some books. We've had episodes about Valiant before in the past. So if you want to, you can go back to the back catalogue. But some would say, well, actually, you could say for certain that they're going to have a resurgence soon, which we're very excited about. So rather than us waffle on about, should we just let the audio fly? You're supposed to say yes.
Oh, I thought you were letting it yourself.
Yeah, no, that was quite, worked fine.
Yes! We're pleased to welcome the new guider and shaper of a comics universe that we've talked about on here since the pod started. So getting on for that 10 years.
Wow.
Comics artist, we might talk about that in a bit, editor and publisher at Alien Books. The new crowd behind the new Valiant line we're very excited about. And also bringing back the corner box, it's only Matthias Timarchi. Hey, Matthias, how you doing?
Great, guys. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate this very much.
Our pleasure, mate. And for those that don't know, we've been trying to record for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. But what we do appreciate is the love you're putting into Valiant Comics at the moment.
Yeah, very much so, mate. Yeah, very much so.
Okay, thank you.
So let's rewind. Let's take it from the top. You, as I understand it, Alien Books has been involved with Valiant as the translator into a Spanish market, but your involvement now has stepped up to being sort of almost co-publisher. Is that a good description, do you think?
Yeah, it's more like a license. It's more like we license the books from them. So because it's I believe it's different if you are a partner or co-publisher. Because right now we are in charge of all of the duties that we have to put to make this work, right? So yeah, it's more like a license. Like we license the characters from them.
Okay, but beyond Spanish language now, you're putting it out into, for example, you put it out into American and English comic shops. It's going into Diamond previews, stuff like that, isn't it? From your work onwards, I guess.
Yes, yeah. As I was telling you before, this started because I was approached by the licensing director of Valiant, Russell Brown. He's a good friend, and we had been discussing to do stuff together since we were doing the Spanish language prints and digital comics at some point. And yeah, well, we were talking, and he said, well, there is an opportunity here if you want to take it. And I say, yes, of course. I'm a big fan. I'm a geek. This is my dream job. Just to create comic books with these characters is yes. And I didn't have even to think about it. So that's how we started.
It's a dream job, man. Because I know that you're already you publish The Walking Dead in Spanish, don't you? And and you've got a number of manga books out as well over there. So you're an established character over there.
Yeah. We also publish DC Comics in Argentina. and we used to publish Marvel, and Hellboy, The Simpsons, a little bit of everything that we could get our hands on. And now in Spain we're working very much with Transformers from the new line from Skybound, which is doing really good.
We're loving that.
Yeah, everybody loves that. Yeah, they put in a lot of love there. You can tell that. And many other publishers that we work with Boom Studios, Image, and Dark Horse, and many other publishers that and of course Valiant as well. This is we started doing stuff in Spanish, and we continue doing this thing in Spanish. But now we are focused on making Valiant this comeback to the stores.
Now listen, Matthias, you have in front of you 3 massive Valiant fans. We've been bang into these comics since the 90s, and were massively impressed at the resurgence of it. There's a good word. We'll get to that in a minute. Under Dinesh, and I even got a chance to chat to Dinesh a couple of times about it, and we sat down with the guys when they attended London conventions and stuff. However, it's been a rocky road over the last few years for Valiant, I'm going to say. Was there some nervousness in you picking up something that is so beloved but has had a little bit of a hard time in the marketplace recently?
Yeah, first of all, I have a great relationship with Dinesh. We're gonna meet now in San Diego Comic-Con.
Brilliant.
Nice. And every time we can, we sit and catch up. So they're good friends. He and all of the team at Bad Idea, because we are publishing Bad Idea in Spanish as well. I forgot that. Yeah. So we're still working together with them. But this is totally separated. I truly value that they respect and they don't try to get involved with stuff like this, because it's another company right now. But even so, I sometimes I ask for them some advice. Okay, guys, what did you do back in the day? How did you manage the kind of stuff? So they give me good advices, and they're good people. So I just wanted to say that.
Of course. Yeah, the love really came through with Dinesh. I mean, I don't think it's any secret I doorstepped him at a Heroes convention in Charlotte and said, please go back to Valiant about 2 years ago. And his reply was, I really wish I could, very politely. But I know, so you've basically got a series of books out at the moment, some of which you were telling us are a hangover from the previous era of people managing them, and you're moving those titles slowly towards something called Resurgence, and from there you're launching core titles. Is that a good description of the sort of playbook?
It is. Yeah. What we have been doing is like planning this out and see how we could continue. So the first thing the first decision we took is like, okay, we're gonna finish all of the open arcs, all of the series that already have been produced or that they are scripted, and we don't want the fans to be with this sensation like, okay, they cut the series or they didn't continue this, or they didn't finish this story and they started from scratch with the character. So first of all, what the first decision we took is like, we were not going to make a reboot, so we were not going to start from scratch. We will maintain continuity on all of the series, because as I was telling you before, I have been reading all over again the comics since 2012, and they are amazing. It's really good how they plan everything, how all the characters start to get connected and to share the story. So and I like those stories. They're really good stories. They impress me. I have to confess. At some point when I first read this, maybe I was doing a million other things and I didn't pay enough attention. But now that I was reading this for the second time, it was like, wow, this is good. I mean, I like these stories. I want to keep reading the Exo Manowar story, Ninja, Bloodshot, the Harbinger. Everything is super interesting.
Any favorites there, Matthias? Any little? I have to say, the Valiant. We were big fans of that miniseries. Yeah, the Eternal Warrior stuff, just beautiful, incredible stuff.
Yeah, which series did you say?
The Valiant.
The Valiant, yeah.
Well, one of our favorites.
Yeah, well, you mean the one that we are doing now, right?
No, the previous one, the
The
miniseries.
previous one.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, the one that Paolo Rivera is doing the art, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Amazing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I got that. I believe that's the only physical book that I bought from Valiant back in the day, just because of the art.
Yeah.
And I believe, say, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, I need to read other stuff because I'm not understanding what's happening here. So I had to I had to get more involved in Valiant. But yeah, that book is amazing. I love all of that storyline. And I believe that some of that is going to be continued now after Resurgence, with the Geomancers and all of the horrors that they have to fight. So there is something coming there. But yeah, that's what we did. We tried to like finish all the stuff that was already in the making. And at some point, I started talking with the editors and the writers and say, okay, whatever we can start tweaking and changing a little bit so we can. Everything needs to go to this event where we are doing some soft relaunch of the series. I mean, because again, it's not a reboot, but we will see after Resurgence the characters in very different situations and scenarios that you never seen them before. It's like, okay, what if you put this character in this situation and how would he react to that? And that's a new storyline. It's something that has not been done with these characters before. So I cannot tell you that much about that. I wish I could because I'm super excited about this. But we can do something later when we have more.
Definitely, man.
There's a lot to be said to the name for when you have like a reboot or a reinvigoration or a relaunch of a series in a comics universe. And sometimes they use words that kind of mean nothing. They're a bit. But resurgence is like the perfect word. That's one of the best words I've heard for what is happening. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not you're not saying, look, everything you read before, forget it. This has been giving new life. It's continuing and like it's going to come back stronger. I think that's a great.
And we've got the characters coming back. They're going to be back on top. That's what we want. That's what we want as fans of Valiant. There's such great characters who you just haven't. They've been underused last few years, and that resurgence is exactly. I mean, you hinted at a minute ago that we might have some Shadowman action as well coming, which we're big fans of as well.
Yeah. Well, I agree. We were looking at the word to see. We were looking at maybe Rebirth, but we knew DC used that one. So something in that vein. So how can we say to people that at first it was more, it was a little more trashy because it was gonna be called the death of the Valiant universe. With bloody letters and stuff like that. But we think it's too much. People may take this the wrong way. So we find this word and say, this is accurate because this is what we are doing. I mean, we're not. Rebooting everything that happened for a reason, and that is a baggage that the characters have to carry. It's a burden that they have to carry on. So we're not going to take that away, but we're going to put them on a clean state, starting from zero, and in different miniseries, different scenarios, as I was telling you, that would be more friendly for new readers, maybe because you can start reading after Resurgence, but if you read Resurgence, it's going to be better because there is a lot of stuff happening there that will lead to everything that we're going to do next year in 2025.
That's got to be how it works, man. It's got to be both, isn't it? You're paying service to the people who've been fans for years and have invested, let's face it, thousands of pounds in your books, but you're also allowing new people in the door to learn about it. I think that's got to be the way. Really has to be.
Well, that's what we're hoping. So. And we're working that way. So I can tell you a little bit about what this is going to be an exclusive again because nobody knows about this.
Please do.
I love it.
Okay, as part of the Resurgence, there is going to be something happening in the miniseries that will allow us to explore alternative versions of the characters, and in books that are self-contained books that are not in continuity. So you can read all of those books on your own, and you don't need to know all of the history of the characters. These are going to be specials. It's going to be called Portals, the Valiant Portals, the line. Yeah, and in this Portals line, we'll have like these short stories that, again, you don't need to read anything from all of the continuity. So that is a good thing for new readers. If you want to read something about Bloodshot, you don't need to read the whole brands that were published before. You just go, you can start with this one.
Would there be a bit like Elseworlds, DC's Elseworlds?
Well, yeah, it would be like a mix between Elseworlds and Black Label. What they're doing with Black Label.
Okay, interesting.
Like
like
you can read it.
Yeah,
exactly. You can get any of the Black Label books and read it on your own, on its own. I mean, and you will fully understand the story. You don't need to read the 1,000 of issues of Batman that are there in the market. You just got White Knight, and you have a story there, and it's a different Batman, it's a different Joker, but it still is a good story, and you can read it in just that graphic novel. So it's something like that, like we are going to do.
It's a good way to go, man, because there's so many. It's almost like the problem with a supporting cast in a lot of these books, because we go there for, you know, the Superman, just say, but you don't necessarily know all of the supporting cast, who are now just as important as the main character, aren't they? And they muddle up their continuity. Whereas if you get these one and done, this is everything you need, I think that's great for readers, because they won't be confused as soon as they start reading it. I think that's a great idea.
I'm bang up for that, especially if you put them in a nice hardback. Matthias, I'm all over that. We like to refer to it as shelf porn.
You'll just spend money whenever you.
Right, I think we're actually getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because you do have comics that are coming out now that are very good, and I'm very much enjoying. So I just thought I'd give a few name checks. Interestingly, the first point I'd like to make is they mix American creators. You've got Becky Cloonan and Fred Van Lente's on 3 of your books currently, I believe. But mixing them with people who are Europeanized, is that right? Was that something you got to choose?
And for the writers, you say?
Well, choose the writers and also combining them with European artists.
Oh yeah. Well, there is some. Again, this is part of how, when we started, there was some writers that were working for Valiant before. So we had some scripts done. So we started with that. But yeah, now Fred is very, very much involved in this. He's gonna help us to develop all of these new storylines, and he's now going to start writing Resurgence as well. So yeah, because it's a big thing. I want this to be our Crisis on Infinite Earths. You know, it's like that's what we want with Resurgence, a book that you like and that you can continue to that you can read anytime. You don't need to read this now and forget it existed. We can then collect the trade and we can read it in any time. You know, it's a good book. If something happens there, and there is a story behind it. So that's what we want.
He's a great writer, man. Fred, he's done work with you before, as people like, you know, Greg Pak's been on books before, isn't he? You know, you've had some really strong writers. Now let's talk about a few of the series you've got come out. So currently, The Valiants, which is your team book, written by Ryan Cady, art by Andre Ponce. That's a great little book. It reminds me of Unity, which was the previous team book.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, that's it. We wanted to have a group team and a team book.
Yeah.
And so like Avengers, like Justice League, something like that. So we say, okay, we're gonna do the Valiants. We are our heroes working together. But then when we started to develop the whole Resurgence thing, it was like, okay, but the Valiants cannot be something like a standalone story. It needs to take the reader to something. So we were changing that, and now the Valiant is kind of like a prologue or an introduction to Resurgence, because a lot of things that happen there are going to have a direct approach in Resurgence. In fact, when we do the trade, we're going to collect the 2 miniseries together, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I'd
like to give another shout to another Fred Van Lente book with art by Alvaro Papagianni, which is Eternal Warriors, which is joining all 3 brothers. So you've got the Archer and Armstrong, Eternal Warrior, and Ivor the Time Walker, but you've done it as a Western, which is just really interesting.
It's super interesting. Yeah, and there is the sister as well. Is Vexana is in the book. So yeah. Well, this is the thing that I love about the Valiant characters. They're so versatile at some point that you can do a Western, you can do a horror book, you can do something in a space, and there is like a niche for every reader. And you can play with these characters because they allow you to. They're immortal. They can be in planet Earth from how long? So yeah, and now we're doing something that is going to be announced in the next solicitations, and I believe this is going to be for October. So Fred did another tie-in for Resurgence. Of it's a one-shot, an Eternal Warrior one-shot that happens in ancient Rome.
Wow.
Nice.
So he's with gladiators fighting there, so it's super good. I love that one too. So yeah, that's the idea is like we can play with these characters and put them in and explore different aspects of them.
Yeah. Now we've talked about the current bunch of titles. We've talked about what's coming, and you've given us a few peeks at that. But what I'd also like, there's two other areas to talk about. Firstly, before we move on to the Kickstarter, I thought it's worth mentioning that you are reprinting a lot of old material as well that's been long out of print. I got the Alien Books Ninjak reprints through this morning.
Okay.
And the other thing I'd like to say is thanks for the little tribute to Don Perlin that you put in your books recently as well. Like an understated genius, man. I love Don's work, and he was for people that don't know, he was the art director on the original Valiant line. But you're putting a lot of, including Don's work, you're putting out a lot of the original comics, as well as the Dinesh the reboot from Dinesh, etc. in the 2000s. How are you picking books to put out amongst that?
Well, that's I believe you're referring to the new collection we're doing, that we call it Valiant Superhero Origins collection.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we found out, like most of the books that are like the incentive for readers to start reading in the Valiant universe, so we're out of print. We couldn't. It's not easy to find those books.
No.
So what we were thinking was, okay, and we talked this with retailers and stores, and everyone was like kind of the same. I don't know how to recommend to my readers, to my clients, how they should start reading on the Valiant universe. I don't have a year one, I don't have a Batman year one that say, okay, start here. So we need something to guide readers to say, okay, you like Bloodshot? Here is the book. This book collects this is his origin. So that's what we did with the Origins collection. We put back the first runs of the 2012 runs and 2014, I mean, and 2015. I believe that there is some different years, but we collect all of that in books that are at a good price. I believe it's priced at like $24.99, something like that. And they they have almost 400 pages each of those books. And when it's a collection. If you get the 12 volumes, it will form an image on the spine. So it's a nice detail. But yeah, we like this.
You're playing on my addictions there, I believe.
Yeah. I'm gambling with the reader. Exactly.
And the other thing we want to ask about is the Kickstarter, Matthias. Now, you've got a lot going on, man. I don't know how you're managing it. You're talking to us on a Sunday night from a hotel room, but you've got a Kickstarter launching for Bloodshot, Black, White, and Bloodshot, which is an anthology title. So did you just want to explain how you found your way to that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I personally love anthologies. I have been working with artists and writers many times, and I love to see this, how people bring different voices to the same character and some different styles, and having people from all over the world. It give you like the unique vision of the character from their own countries or whatever. It gives you a different approach, right? And yes, I'm also being a fan of anthologies, but I'm also a big fan of Sin City.
Okay.
And for me, it was mind blowing when Frank Miller started doing that Yellow Bastard. Like he only uses black, white, and yellow And it was like, wow, this is fantastic. And I always liked that. And then I saw that everybody was putting this anthology book of black, white, and red, black, white, and green, or whatever. And we said, okay, Valiant do not have any of those. So let's do the first one. Let's do the first anthology in black, white, and red. In this case, it's black, white, and Bloodshot, because we know blood is red. And I'm pretty proud of the cast that we have. The roster of artists is really, really good. We have artists from all over the world, and they are doing an amazing job. And I can't wait to have this on the market so people can see it. And again, it's all short stories that you can read on its own. It's you don't need to be an expert on the character. You will understand all of the stories, and they all have different point of view. So I think that is going to be interesting.
So Bloodshot is such a fascinating character, and for those that don't know, he is essentially a mix. I'm going to say a mix between kind of Wolverine and Frank Castle. He's almost got a look of Frank Castle, but he's got these nanobots that rebuild him depending on what the story requires. To be fair, with his injuries, but underneath that, I mean, that's the sort of surface story. But underneath that, you've got this sort of underlying PTSD. War. He's a very damaged individual, isn't he? And he's forgotten his family, and he hallucinates companions, and he loses everyone who's close to him. He's a really interesting character to get hold of at its core, I think. You know? Yeah,
I totally agree, and that's an aspect that we want to explore very much on his next miniseries when Resurgence ends, because we want to explore the more human side of Bloodshot, of how he's dealing with his demons. And this PTSD, like you say, sorry.
PTSD, of course,
the post-traumatic syndrome, right? So that's something that we really like about this character, and showing a more human aspect of him. I believe is something different to go, and we will also explore a little more about his family and how he's dealing with magic and Jesse, and now he has his dog, the Bloodhound,
with the big red eye. I like that. Yeah,
that's cool.
And the other classic is Blood Squirt, who's this sort of strange, impish character who appears. Sometimes we're not sure if it's just him that can see it, but it's almost like this hallucinatory Loki that appears and just takes the piss out of everything and winds everyone up, and is a sort of almost like an inner voice sometimes. Like fascinating, man, fascinating. I can't wait to see this. But at the moment it's you can sign up for it. To name some of the creators you've got on there that I've got from your website, you've got Ariel Olivetti, just incredible stuff. Eduardo Riso, I can't think of anyone born better to draw that character. And one of the writers you've got, I notice, is you've got three great writers I notice here: Brian Azzarello, Mark Guggenheim, and Tim Seeley as well.
Nice.
I know Tim's worked on him before, isn't he? I think on the Reloaded series a few years ago. And you've got also Miko Swayan, who I know has drawn him before. Mirko Andolfo is great. And you've got a cover by Shintaro Keigo. That's quite a find, I guess.
he's a big star, you know. He's a master of manga. And he's super kind. I just approached to him via Instagram, I guess. And we are publishing some of his book in Spain. Right. But I say, hey, I'm your publisher in Spain. Nice to meet you. But I have this other project, and I would love if you want to contribute. And he said, yeah, sure. Let me explore a little bit about the character. And he made a fantastic story. We don't only have a cover; we have a story for him as well.
Oh wow! Okay, right.
Yeah, it's an 8-page story, but you know, with his art, with the duplicity, the multiplicity of characters, all of that thing that identifies him as an artist is all present there in the story. It's amazing. So I'm really proud
to see that.
No, that's great. That sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah, Brian Azzarello is going to kill on that title as well, man. What talk about grim and gritty writer. The other thing, curiously, you bring up there is your connection to manga, because you publish a lot of manga in Spain. Is there going to be? Have you ever thought about a crossover of a lot of the Valiant characters are crying out for a manga recreation? I guess, you know.
Yeah. There is something in the works, yes.
Okay. So we got too many secrets out already tonight, but that's
very astute, Tony. Very
thank
astute.
you.
No, we there is something that we're trying to work with. I can't say anything much about this because we signed an NDA with the company, with the Japanese publisher.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work on a line of manga, of Valiant manga, but it's just it's just talking for now. So we'll see.
Exo versus a kaiju. It's got to be. It's got to be. Listen, man, this has been a pleasure. We've been extremely excited to do this tonight. Yeah. Did you want to give out some of the links and some of the places we can find you, Matthias? Places where people can buy and order your books, and get on it ready for the Resurgence.
And yeah, of course. In every we're distributing in every comic store and bookstore. So you can always go to your comic store and order there. We don't have a web store where we're not doing e-commerce right now, so we can't sell directly. But if you go to any comic store, they have our books, and if they don't, just ask them to bring that for you. And yeah, also you can find us in all of the social networks as Alien Books, in Instagram, X, and Facebook, whatever. We're there, so you can Google and find us there. And of course, we have our website where we put some news. That is alienbooks.com. So that's pretty much where you can find us.
Oh, and you'll find links on there to sign up for the Kickstarter. It's got like a Launchpad page. It hasn't started running yet, but I've signed up for that.
As have the Notify
boys.
One.
Yeah, the Notify page. So go and do that straight away. Matthias, mate, thanks so much. And
cheers, dude. Yeah,
please don't be a stranger. We're really looking forward to you bringing this back and putting Valiant back on the map, man. Yeah, very excited.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you and your and all of your followers. And I have a great time. So yeah, whenever we have more news, if we can do something, we can do one again.
Oh yeah,
brilliant. Thanks,
when I can spill the beans a little more freely.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, man.
Okay, man.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you so much, guys.
And welcome back. How was that, eh?
I got overly excited.
You did get very excited, Tony.
Yeah. I did. What a nice dude. Making time for us on a Sunday night as well. Yeah. If I was sitting in a hotel in Barcelona, I probably wouldn't be chatting to us three idiots.
Yeah, well, you chat to us because, like, wherever you are in the world, you just want to talk about.
You've made an effort, to dial
That's true. That is
globally.
True. Me and Cliff from our little love nest in Charlotte, we called in, didn't we, a few weeks ago? Yeah. Okay, so we've just had that brilliant interview with Matthias. Down to him. I'm going to ask you two your favourite character. We ran a little bit of a thing on the Slack this week. Who's your favourite Valiant character? Let's start with you, Daniel. Who's your favourite?
It's going to be cliche. It's Bloodshot, without a doubt. It's
right. That's a Dan Butcher character.
Yeah, totally, man. There was Alfie Gallagher said back in the day, Dan, check out this Bloodshot trade, and I got it, and I was like, yeah, this is loving this. It's like
a great character, man.
Military action. You got like him getting blown up and then reconstituting. That comic, one of the comics we got sent over, he gets literally sliced in half, doesn't he? And all this stuff's happening as he's kind of two halves to him start coming back together. It's having a character with a healing factor is so much fun to play with.
They take the piss out of that overused trope now where you see through someone's head where they've been shot through, and you see the villain through their head. But what they do in that story is they start with that head and they end with that head in one of his issues. So it's him, you looking through his head at the person who just shot him, and then they reverse it. So he's looking through the head of the person who just shot on the last page. I thought, fucking lovely. I love that. Talk about taking the piss. Yeah.
Narrative symmetry is just always fucking wonderful.
Yeah, I do love it.
There may be a little bit of talk about that in some way in the recommends, which we'll get to.
Oh, okay. Vincenzo, what about you? Favourite character?
I think for me, Quantum and Woody. I think
that came up quite a few times. Actually, a couple of people said that.
Yeah, and I think with the Valiant universe, because when you get the core group of characters, I mean, you know, you've got like the machine gun one, you've got like the person in a suit one. You've got a couple of like the major things sort of covered.
Yeah.
And it's always felt like this, like throughout the different iterations of it. It felt like Quantum and Woody was it was an outlier. It felt like a spin-off book that ran at the same pace as the main books. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, and because of that, because it was sort of like we're gonna have fun with this. I think that's why it's got a cult status. Why it's always a popular thing. Why they I mean, for me, I missed out on the first time around, like in the 90s and stuff. So when it came back around in 2012 and stuff, and with a new line of books, I immediately was like, right, that's one of the books I got to go to. And they kept the humour, but there was the wonderful relationship, you know, because they're sort of half brothers. You know, that sort of, they played well with that. And then they put it on a backdrop of the villains were like horrific in that. Do you remember that in that first series? They were like real body horror kind of stuff. I was like, where is this going? This is a genius. And there's a fan favourite goat.
Yeah, there's the ghost. He's much drawn, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then they put them in the Delinquents, which was those two plus Archer and Armstrong.
Yeah.
Which also have this sort of buddy cop thing going on.
Yeah, and I think
I really liked.
Yeah, I never got round to Archer and Armstrong until that sort of that right. line as well, purely because of other people talking about it. I could see that sort of mixing those two groups together, but for me, that feels like too similar a flavour. And the Archer and Armstrong book felt like it was on a different wavelength, even though it did have that humour. But they were like, it was like immortality and all of that sort of stuff going. You know, they're great books. Archer and Armstrong.
Archer and Armstrong, but
I know Simon.
Gone.
I was in Simon Russell earlier was saying he hadn't read one, which surprised me because we're of a similar age, you know, and stuff. And I was trying to think what I'd recommend for him to read, and it would be the Barry Windsor Smith Archer and Armstrong. You know, with the dinosaur and all this sort of thing going on, and the religious cult he escaped from, and he's, you know, Armstrong is an immortal and all that sort of thing. I think it would play into that. But that's thinking through that again. That's what I always thought about the Valiant universe. Is people mistake it as being a superhero universe, which it's not. They have a variety, like you say. They've got the Iron Man version of theirs is much different than that, because it's kind of like Conan or Slane in an Iron Man suit. What would he do? And he just becomes this fucking brutal force of nature. You know, he just fights for his people and stuff. I really, really like that sort of thing.
In some ways, I think those sort of similarities, and if you're going to describe it to people, can do a disservice to it. You know, because immediately you think, oh, this universe's Iron Man, but if
you can be more wrong.
It's if you read it for yourself, it's a completely different thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's, you know, and I know in the market that we have, a lot of the time you see these team books, they are striking their hero pose, aren't they? They're running towards the, you know, which we have to do because that's what the audience likes. But sometimes those sort of visuals can cloud over the meat to what the characters are underneath.
There's an imperfection to a lot of their characters. You know, like you mentioned with Bloodshot and the PTSD, we mentioned earlier with Bloodshot and the PTSD, you've got Exo and the fact that he is this, you know, violent Visigoth underneath an armor. You know, then you've got like you say, like Quantum and Woody, and they're a subversion of the superhero trope, aren't they? And there's a lot of that going on. You know, Ninjak is a subversion of the James Bond trope. Where he actually stabs people to death and chops their heads off and stuff like that. And they play with things in it that I really liked. And not always, you know, stuff like Hardcore and stuff like that are perhaps just straight adventure stories, which is also a good side to them.
And it changed a little bit when they came back. For instance, they didn't have Solar or Turok. And
Solar, Turok, and
Magnus.
Magnus, which is a shame because nobody's done anything decent with Magnus still, who was a great character.
What's happening to Solar? Why is Solar?
He came back for a while through, was it Dynamite? I think not very well dealt with.
Okay.
Turok's a massive deal. I mean, Turok was people go on about Image Comics selling loads. The first issue of Turok sold fucking almost as many.
Video games.
To be honest, the video game was one of the best adaptions of something at that time that there was. It fucking boosted that title. Unbelievable.
It was interesting. I did that Deathmate read through. Like, was it this year or the end of last year? The contrast between the Valiant characters who have actually got substance and depth, and the Image ones, which are just like. Everyone was like a cardboard clone of a character you've already seen and just completely not fleshed out. It was like fucking night and day.
In research for this episode, I was listening to Rob's Ovations, where he was talking about how I don't know if you know this, but that whole thing was clearly his idea, and he I don't think he read the I don't think he read the Valiant versions of the characters.
Mate,
yeah,
fucking hell.
And he just sort of ranted on about how Valiant was all in grids and they weren't taking chances visually. But to me, at the time, I was much more enjoying the Valiant books because they were just straight adventure storytelling.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of fucking locked up with the old Image. I kind of like the bright lights of the fruit machine.
yeah.
I was an uncultured, undisciplined, unrefined palate.
I think, even though, as you said in that chat, Tony, like the team book was one of your sort of favourite books and is one of like the staples, the Valiant themselves.
Unity,
But for new readers, I mean, I would say pick a character and then just go for their title.
Yeah.
I think rather than going for a team book where you're trying to decide where you know, I know it's all joined together and that's the cohesive of it is really nice, but the strength of these characters are in their independence. I think, you know, it's just it's a boon that they work as a team. So
when I was reading the because I got a lot of the when it came back under Dinesh, I was reading a lot of the books in single issues, but I caught up on a lot of them in trades, and I would just read for a week. I'd read just Exo. For a week, I would read just Ray. You know, or Ninjak, whatever it was. But I think you're right. There's a series there for it different. So there's a series there for 2000 AD readers. So I would say my favorite is Eternal Warrior.
Okay,
who is a time traveler through fantasy. He's kind of the eternal champion. I sent Pete Duncan a message today saying there's so much Moorcock stuff in that you wouldn't believe. So it's got that fantasy, but there's a sci-fi element to some of it as well. But you've got that for that sort of reader. You've got Exo for readers of Conan and or Iron Man. You know, you've got Ninjak for fans of spy books, but you've also got Faith. Now, Faith is a book that is clearly designed for the YA female readership,
and it's been a huge success,
massive success, and drawn in a different style as well, much more sort of clean line, bright color kind of style compared to the Visigoth story, for example. But there's something for everyone there, and you can, like you say, you can just pick Faith and read it. You can just pick Eternal Warrior and read it. You can just do it like that. You know?
When we speak to Matthias, like they seem to have a really good understanding of the audience and kind of giving them what they want. Like people want to see an Exo book, they want to see a Faith book because they're different books. You don't want to make your entire line like one book because if you're trying to appeal to everyone, you're going to appeal to no one.
If everything's the Dark Knight, everything becomes grim and depressing. That's
like you say, Shadowman's like a body horror Hellblazer book. You know, that's what it's doing. I'm so chuffed. And that whole thing he talked about having what I would probably describe as the evergreen shelf titles as well. The combination of the books from the history that you can read to learn about the characters and the standalone series books as well, which are coming out. Which I got to tell you, that news ain't on the website or anywhere. I think we might be the first people to hear that. Nice. So that's going to be really good as well.
I'm going to dip on some of those Origin books, I tell you that.
Some crackers in there, man. Don't forget, Frank Miller did the covers to a load of the first series books. Yeah, there's some great covers out there.
What's that one they nicked for Bloodshot, the silhouette? It was...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know what you mean.
Was it Punisher?
Was it? Oh, right.
Yeah, it might be. They got
the one I've really had no sort of interaction with, or really nothing about, is Rye. I don't know.
That's a sci-fi book.
I don't know why. That's the one that I've never really come across, and I know they've got books coming out, and
Well, you could probably describe that before we really use the term as a cyberpunk book. Part of it.
Okay.
There is that element to it. There's that line through to Bloodshot as well. There's a little bit of that going on. But if you look, they also homage the character in the new team book, The Valiant.
Okay, cool.
That character appears. Yeah, that's some amazing art in that book as well. Some really lovely stuff. Yeah, and Divinity, which is to me is their Watchmen. It's just about the Russian spacemen, and they come back with powers, and beautiful.
I've got that. I've got that in a trade.
Yeah.
Some of it at least.
Yeah.
I remember Harris loving that. I got her a copy of it. She bought a copy of it, and it just blown her mind. Like they're really good. Yeah.
So exciting stuff to come. I mean, obviously, these Valiant books are running right now. And I believe Resurgence starts in, I think it was September. I saw on the PDF. Bear with me while I'm just looking through it again.
That is a good type. Good.
Resurgence.
Oh, and we must say, because I don't think when we interviewed Matthias, he was aware that the episode was coming out today. So the Kickstarter is live today.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Bloodshot, Black, White, and Bloodshot is now live, or will be this afternoon if you listen to this in the morning.
Yeah.
So it goes live on the 8th of July.
The 8th of July.
They've got that classic sort of page of, don't miss the road to this epic event, and they've got the check boxes.
Oh yeah, they haven't they? Yeah.
And obviously in the issues they've obviously checked off the ones that are currently existing that you can go back.
There you go.
Oh,
So
cool.
it started in February 2024 with a very Valentine's special. Nice.
Oh, of course it did. Yeah. The if you got the free comic book day from Valiant, it contains the first 8 pages, I believe, of the Valiants.
Nice.
I would never take a pen to a comic book and tick off something.
No,
No way.
You make a spreadsheet in Excel.
Yeah.
No.
Right in a little notebook.
Yeah, this month, currently they've got the Valiants issue 3 of 4, so you can go back. Exo Manowar Invictus 3 of 4, Ninjak versus Roku 2 of 4, The Darks Soulside issue 1 of 2.
Fred Van Lente, that is as well. That one. That's going to be great.
Eternal Warriors Last Ride of the Immortals issue 1 is out in July. And then we've got August and September. September is when Resurgence of the Valiant Universe issue 1 of 4 begins. So there's going to be a lot of sort of build up to that, I think.
That Roku character is quite interesting. Reading that comic,
Razor blade hair,
absolutely kicking Ninjak's ass in that comic.
She's a sort of regular villain in his series.
Okay.
And there's a one Jose Rip drew her once. Beautiful.
Oh man,
incredible.
Yeah, that's fucking.
So alienbooks.com is their website. So go there and check them out because it's going to be very interesting. We're always interested to see where Valiant goes. In fact, there's a certain topic we're throwing about at the moment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We're going to talk about that.
About characters that it may be a future episode of a show, but we're just going to refine.
I discovered
a
convention commission off Mike McCone of that character, and I asked him to do them in the original. So that I'll bring that out when we do that chat.
Yeah,
nice. That'd be good. So there you go. A Valiant. Look forward to it because we are.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other things to look forward to. What else have we got in the shout outs this week, James?
Shall I do my one shout out before Dan does his 24?
Yes. Let's go.
I've not got 24, but I do have a few.
QVention 2 is coming up. The 20th of July, Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Don't worry, the football will be over by then. The Spice of Life pub at Cambridge Circus in London. Nearest tube station is Leicester Square, or I don't know if you know this. If you come out the Strand, right, come out of Charing Cross, go left along the Strand, and go up the Haymarket. Do you know what it's like up there?
What?
It's like Piccadilly Circus.
Jesus.
So come along. It's not really a convention. It's just all us gathering in a pub. There'll be a couple of artists there as well, and a couple of pros coming along, just to welcome Cliff back into the UK. So we'll be doing that. So
I see him coming in. He's not leaving on that day. He'll
have been in for a couple of days and got a couple of days after it. Yeah, but don't think you got to be in a clique or know us. If you don't know us, if you've never met us, come along. You'll soon find yourself at home. Definitely.
Yeah.
Everyone is welcome. There you go. That's my only one.
Okay. Dan?
Ready?
Go.
No. So first off, we're going to fire it off with the PhoenixFest 2024 for one day only on July 20th. The best kids comics festival in the UK. Tickets are on sale now. Get immersed in the world of comics and join us on Saturday 20th for a show like no other, featuring a host of incredible comic creators, including Jamie Smart, author of Smash It, Bunny vs. Monkey. Bring PhoenixFest to your home and join us online from anywhere in the world.
Shout out to Jamie Smart, actually, for his National Book Awards that he won.
I saw that. Yeah,
nice
one.
Awesome.
He'd make a good comics laureate, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely, yeah. He's doing the fucking Lord's work when it comes to comics and getting them into the hands of new readers.
He is.
Who is the current comics laureate?
It's that bloke who did the Yardie Police book. Can't remember his name.
Okay. That's not me throwing shade.
Apologies if you're a listener.
I genuinely can't remember his name. I follow him on Instagram. Can't think of his name.
Claudia Christian's Dark Legacies, the Compendium Edition. That's currently on Zoop with 17 days to go. Smash its target. And if you like fans of Babylon 5, The Expanse, and Terminator, we all like them, don't we? I know Tony's a big fan. We've got a Kickstarter for... I've just clicked the wrong button, so that's really good.
That's funny.
Is that what's called? I've clicked the wrong button. Tony, make a note of that because you could write a story about that.
Cut it.
Yeah.
So we've got Advent Comics. Epiphany Engine, a 192-page graphic novel featuring an incredibly amazing collection of Black comic characters and creators from across the globe. That's sailing towards his target. It could do
That's
a little
got a
bit
hell
of
of
a
a
boost.
fucking double-page splash, like sort of.
It
poster
hasn't it?
thing.
All those
Yeah,
characters,
a lot of characters
awesome.
on that one. There's a tier here where you can get your own character in the book.
Yeah, a character. All right.
So yeah, get your own.
I pressed the wrong
OC.
button, man. I want to get him in there.
Just get them in there. What else we got? We're doing our draw off for July. None of the above. Hashtag none of the above. Today's was Dracula from Requiem Night Vamp. I fucked that up. You know, the comic by Pat Mills.
Yeah.
So and last but not least, we've got Back Issues podcast, the podcast where two friends read a comic and then talk about it. That's at WGBI Pod.
The best thing about that drawing challenge, Daniel, is the fact that the good thing about it is it's about politicians, because you never hear comics people talk about politicians, do you? No. So weird.
Well, to be fair, if you want to hear about politics, you go to comic creators.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I go. That's where I go to get my voting advice. Yeah, who should I vote for this year? Yeah. I wonder what Ethan Van Sciver's saying.
I was thinking about voting for them. Oh, they're a Nazi. How did you find out? Oh, they said on Twitter. Okay.
Oh, they said on Twitter you're a Nazi. Oh, right. I thought that was an organisation that ended in 1945. No. Still going.
He works for the Greens, didn't he? Yeah. Same minute. Okay. Like this tweet, retweet.
Yeah. What a day. What a day to be alive.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Any more shout outs, Dan?
No, I think that's it.
Good one. That was a good one.
He's spent.
Yeah, done it. Well, we did another call out on this week from Twitter for potential review comics, and we've got a whole slew of them coming in. Yeah. So we'll be looking to address them.
In all seriousness, if you thank you to everyone that replied to the tweet or interacted or whatever and sent your book through. And I can say this because if you're listening to this as I'm saying these words right now, we really appreciate it, because not only have you just replied to something and just sent something for free marketing, you actually want feedback, and you want to get involved in this community, because trust me, it's a great community and very supportive of the ACP stuff. So thank you very much. And I
think the thing is as well is I said this in a reply to a couple of them, is firstly have a listen. Yeah. Because if you're sending something in, we might not be the sort of people you want to hear back from in relation to your book. Yeah. I think sometimes we're a fair bunch of people, But I think the thing is as well is we'll also we'll use stuff that comes out of your comic as a reason to talk about a subject.
Yeah.
So the use of covers, for example, or the use of a series as a Kickstarter, or what's better to do, a graphic novel, or so there is this stuff. So generally, bear in mind, we just have had someone on who's talking about a Kickstarter, but generally we won't just pick people to come on who have a Kickstarter, especially if they are someone who's just maybe not listened to us before, not taken part in the community and stuff like that. Yeah. What we're more looking forward to is people who have come on and go, right, I'm thinking about doing this. This is the whole thing, and it's a nice area we can talk about, which I think is a better thing to do. I think in the past, maybe we've had people on who've sort of kickstarted and run, and have not really given back.
Trouble is, we're not soothsayers. We can't tell where they're going to go.
And sometimes, as is the way when you got a Kickstarter and you got a shout about it, you're just trying to.
I completely understand that. We were talking about the one earlier, weren't we? About some guy had like 12 days to go and he had half his funding to do, and I can understand completely why he's reached out. But just look to see where it's going to be useful. I think there's a fine line between professionalism and desperation sometimes in relation to Kickstarters. Just be a bit careful. And certainly,
if you want to talk to us or talk to the community, because there's the great Slack community as well. So please join that. Because there's creators, there's professionals, there's fans, there's just readers. But it's a wonderful, very supportive community that sometimes just want to talk about.
Yeah, and I think even the people who maybe initially started on the Slack to promote their stuff in the promo channel are also commenting on other stuff now.
Yeah,
and they're finding like the pages page and stuff like that. There's stuff to be learned from each of us. And by each of us on that page.
Yeah.
I learned this week. I knew it was really expensive, but newspaper print, I didn't realize quite how expensive that was
in the UK.
UK, it's just like I always thought, oh, that's prohibitive. I know they put the price up on that. So I double checked it at a couple of printers. I was like, holy fuck, it's like 4 or 5 times more expensive than this regular print.
Yeah,
which is nuts because it used to be
print
the cheap
so
option.
much more in order to make it cost effective.
Yeah, because everyone's like, we're making old school comic with the old paper. Man, the idea of that sounds fantastic, but in reality, it's so cost prohibitive. You just can't do it.
Yeah, but if you look at something like the Santos Sisters or American Nature, which I was just in, they're using newsprint because in their country, it's easier and cheaper to print. Over here, seemingly not so. Yeah.
Well, we have paper problems coming in from like getting it from Europe and stuff because I'm not going to say Brexit because I'm ignorant to that, but I know there's supply issues and stuff.
There's always, there's so many different variables to supply chains and just anything, whether it be postage, whether it be printing, whether it be anything.
Because part of your job's print, isn't it, Vin? Part of mine's print, and we're constantly negotiating about print, like paper and getting shit like that in.
Yeah,
right.
And postage as well. That's just another massive fucking thing. It's.
Well, I mean, it's the why now there's only one creator, one international creator that I'll get the print copy of the book. I'll support people. We're crowdfunders. I'll support people at a digital level. I like doing that. If the PDFs.
I'm going to guess who you're going to say. Can I guess who you're going to say?
Yeah.
Edison Neo.
He's our boy.
He is our boy. Always.
And plus, fucking good pricing.
Great.
Yeah. There's a lot of these creators like Edison Neo or maybe like Ryan K. Lindsay with the price of a digital PDF or things like that. There are people that just like we just want to get the comics in people's hands. But most of the time, and apologies to all those US creators out there, but if I'll get the PDF. Do you know what I mean? I will support the book.
Yeah.
So
if you can get distribution through like Third Bear Press or get a release,
totally.
It's just the fact that when you got paid twice over the cover price just for the postage, usually more.
Yeah,
it's really cost prohibitive.
It's one of those. It's kind of a frustrating but necessary part of the comics process, isn't it? Because we just want to make the books, we just want to tell the stories, we just want to write we want to write the scripts, we want to draw the panels, we want to make a book and just put it out there.
Yeah.
And I think for the majority of people, that's all we want to do. But then you've got to do the setting up a Kickstarter page, or getting a publisher, or just whatever it is. There's so many more levels to it, isn't it? So,
you'll notice with Tribute, where every so often I'll just go, fuck it, I'm just going to put this for sale.
Yeah.
I just cannot. It just fucking kills me.
But even then, even in the sort of the minimum, you still got to sometimes pound the pavement just to take copies to like Gosh or
mate, definitely. Clear the dining room table. Here we go. Envelopes, bags, backing boards.
Yeah.
And then you got to send 5 here, 10 there, take them into. It's all that sort of thing still.
Yeah. So God bless all of you lovely people that want to keep doing it.
That do it, man.
Yeah.
That's obviously that's what we're all about. We're all here for you.
Yeah. So please, join the Slack community. Get in touch with us. Keep the sort of comics coming, and we will shout out and mention comics as we go along. Because also we are not in especially like the US scene, which is that has a vast, many different pockets of independent creators everywhere, and it. That can only meet up at conventions and stuff, and sometimes there's no conventions in your area. So it's fascinating. It's always fascinating to hear from US independent creators, I think.
Well, that thought, because that's my first recommend this week.
Wow.
Massively covers that.
Wow.
You didn't even know that.
It's almost like I've taken the decks and I've just gone, wiki, and I've just, I've mixed together seamlessly into the, what recommendations have we got this weekend?
Sexy Matrix.
Sexy Matrix. I don't know why I did a dance, and the audio listeners can't.
You look like you had like a fart pillow under your arms, and you're like that.
Yeah.
Can you do it with both arms?
Do what? Oh, I use both.
I tell you what. I tell you what. With I tell you what. With the ever evolving world of technology. The armpit farts just completely fallen out of fashion.
Yeah, people don't like it anymore, do they?
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it started with the remote-controlled fart machine. I think that was probably the end of it. Then
fucking AI,
fucking
just taking our fucking farts from us.
sucking them out of our harness.
What about the old putting the air in your cheeks and then blowing like that? And so many
my
ways. My
favourite one is like, show me, like, join your fingers. Like, that's my favourite one. Where, oh, look, it looks like a vagina. That was my favourite one.
I used to get that done at school. Like, what the fuck am I looking at? Yes.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
My other favourite is shaking someone's hand, but just giving them a little tickle.
Oh yeah. Not with the index finger. You got to do the middle one.
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. Weird them out.
I always do that.
Properly weird them out.
Whenever I see him.
You don't do it. You don't do it immediately though, do you? You have like a second of a handshake and then you do it.
And then
just hold it slightly too long.
Yeah. Hello, Christian.
Pull it like you're pulling a carrot out of the ground.
Hope the tour in France went well.
He's still there, I think, isn't he?
Well, he might not be when he listens to this. He may never listen to the show. We don't know.
I think we're seeing him on the 20th.
Awesome.
Hey, we can question him then.
Right. We had a great segue then. We fucked it up.
We fucked it up.
We completely fucked it up. So what are we reading?
My first book is something called Comics Blogger, which is I got in touch with a guy called Thomas J. Campbell through the Comics Blogger Instagram. I tried to buy them through his shop, but he didn't have international shipping on it. So I messaged him and he said, "Oh, that's all right. I don't mind. Just like PayPal me to this address and I'll look up the postage," which I think is quite a sensible way of doing it sometimes.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
He sent me through issues 7, 8, and 9. They're A5 black and white interview and review zines, only $5 each. Pretty good value, actually, I have to say. It's nice to see this stuff physically. It's all about blogs and websites and podcasts now, isn't it, comics? We don't get enough zines that talk about comics. You know, zines about dogs or rabbits or how sad you are a lot of the time, but we don't really get, like Fantasy Advertiser and Ben and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, because a zine was almost like the evolution of the fan club, sort of like chatter, that kind of thing. And
now zine as well.
And now zine, we obviously got zine fairs, and there's there's people doing fucking fantastic stuff, and the zines are like they sit side by side with the comics, and there's wonderful artistic. But you're absolutely
there's
right,
little between them, is there anymore?
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, but back for me, fanzines would be about comics almost, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Anyway, it's nice to see. I was particularly interested in this one because it's an account of the recent BubblesCon 24. So getting on to what you talked about there, V. So Bubbles being the magazine that I talk about regularly on here, which is another version of this, like a bigger format one. But they had a get-together and it looked a bit more like a seminar than a con. Interesting approach where they had different people in talking about different intellectualizations of comic stuff. Some of it seemed fine, some of it a little bit dry, I'm going to say. Also in this zine is an interview with cartoonist Gabrielle. You probably best know her from a surrealist autobio comics that Drawn and Quarterly. Plus she had The Voyeurs out Uncivilized books. And I think Everything is Flammable came out from Uncivilized as well. It's a really interesting interview. I like interviews where he talks about, we went to this cafe, but it was a bit noisy, so we ended up going to this other place. I like that in an interview. I don't know why. It just reminds me of that whole sort of Rolling Stone thing about I met him backstage, this sort of thing. I like that. It's a bit of human interaction in there. It's then the second interview, which I think is probably my favourite, is with Nate McDonough. We've talked about Grixie Cola before on here, on the Instagram, which is sort of a comic about him going to comic shops, going through back issue bins and being annoyed by the customers and stuff. I didn't realise 50 issues and more he's had out of that. Okay, that's good going. How many small press comics are 50? Apart from you, Dan, how many people have put 50 issues out? Do you know what I mean? Good.
I haven't even done that.
I think you're almost there. I think McDonough's. I feel like it's a better interview because he feels like he's a little bit more giving with longer form answers. I think if someone's, we experience this all the time. If you ask somebody a question and you say, "Who's your favourite character?" and they go, "Oh, I like XO Manowar," in their head they must realise that's not everything we want from them.
No,
we want them to, talk about why they like it and stuff like that. Yeah, and even Matthias, who English, let's face it, is his second language. He speaks English better than I can. But even he got that, didn't he? When I said something to him, you elaborate on it. Anyway, he talks a bit more, so I found it quite interesting. And in that, he talks a lot about the comic shops he visited, his history in comics. It's got a review section in here. It's called the review section. It's more, to me, and this goes back to what you were talking about, V, as well, about how this is a mixture of the American scene that we don't really see. There's loads of comics in here I've never heard of. And we've got our toes in a lot of little pies around the world and in this country, etc.
That's what I like about small press, man. You think you've seen some of it, and man, there's fucking acres of it.
Yeah,
that you just
there is.
never see.
It's an interesting, for me, the main interest I had in the review section was the fact there's stuff that's new to me that I can go and look up now. It's a little bit more, this is what the comic's about, rather than a review of it. Yeah. So I think he only mentions a couple of times what stuff that he didn't get. Nice to see how Weaver's A Reluctant Sadist issue 8 gets a lovely little mention in there, and the reviewer nails what I see as Hal's attempts at the sort of comics version of an organic feel to the images in it. I talked about Reluctant Sadist, it's about 3 or 4 months ago, and Hal's I know is a listener now, and he's got this really interesting style. If you imagine that, I don't want to say if you imagine that Groot was an underground comic, because there's an element of that organic feel to it, like the knots in a tree, but there's so much more to it than that. It's very original and well worth looking. In the back, then again, it was nice to see so there's got basically a review section in the back. There's like the issues he didn't get to. I didn't get a chance to do a full review on, or didn't have the space to. And it's nice to see Fractures from Wolfgang Crow is mentioned.
Fantastic.
As is Rain Like Cope Aesthetic from Gareth is in there as well. As I say, it's nice to see this type of thing. He's putting it. The creator of this book is putting himself out there. He's going to conventions. He's getting books in. I think it's all by him. I think he's doing everything in it. At Comics Blogger, you can find it, or www.comicsblogger.now, which is just if you're in the States, worth investing in. They're only cheap. It's less. I know I say this as someone who appears on a weekly podcast, but it's less about the reviewer and more about the product, which I like about it's talking about.
Writing a good review is fucking hard.
Yeah, I think you're right,
man.
And also,
it's really tricky.
Reviewers and websites become about personalities these days, and it shouldn't be. We should focus on the craft and what is in front of us, and not in ourselves. And I think he's done that here. It's nice to see him shining a light on some books that I haven't heard of, and there's a couple there that if I get a chance to, I'll get a copy of. So look for that Comics Blogger zine. It's only $5 each. I don't know that, but that translates to an English.
So over the kind of the hateful reviewer that everything's shit and they use every opportunity to shit on people. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so bored of that, and I'm so bored of the everything is good if you say anything in this is bad. There's a middle ground there to talk about, discuss what's in a comic.
Discussion and a constructive feedback.
Criticism. Constructive feedback's better, I think, maybe. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think if everything is fucking amazing, then nothing is bad. And if everything's bad, nothing is good.
Yeah.
And I think we're stuck in that cycle.
It's fucking infantile to kind of go to either of those extremes.
Yeah.
Because I think, for me as well, like there is, some people might sound off about this, but there's a difference when it comes between feedback and criticism based on where the product's coming from, I think.
Yeah, you can't compare Watchmen with one of our zines.
Plus, I would also say that there's a certain who's listening. Do you know what I mean? If we talk about the big two books, we're more than likely going to be praising or criticising, because we're going to be talking about we don't like it like this, I don't like that. But if I'm going to be honest, the suits that aren't going to listen to this, they're probably not. It's going to fall on deaf ears because of what's happening. However, when you have an independent, or you have a small press book, or you have a creator that's really pushing their book, and you're doing a review or anything, we check out the review. We check out what people are saying about the book. So if you can say something constructive, or
you've got to be way more considered.
Yeah,
more considered.
The praise is appreciated. The feedback, the constructive feedback is appreciated. You don't need to fucking go in on them. There's absolutely no There's
I think Dave Kennedy said it to me the other day. I think I put it out on Twitter. He says a good review is encouraging, but a critical review is gold.
Yeah.
And if you can say to someone, I really like this, I like what you're doing, but I don't think the cover works, and here's the reason, people won't notice it. It's not a good reflection of what's in the series. And that's going to help them.
Yeah.
But if you just say everything's brilliant of this,
and also it's
not helping anyone.
Honestly, people won't listen to you after a while.
And you have to be completely self-aware of it's an individual opinion. It's your individual opinion as well. Some people talk about they are right, and if it's not their opinion, it's wrong. That's not the case. That's not always.
I think I always think there's a divide there. So there's the empirical things. So there's things that you can say, this is spelled wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is printed badly. And then there's the things you say, the character arc didn't work for me, which is subjective.
Yeah.
And there's a blurring of borders between those two things sometimes. But I think there's a bit of both there. A bit of both helps. But experience, I mean, how many comics have we read between us? You know, that's the experience of what we talk about here. Yeah. Good. Yeah. There you go. But I would say, get this. I would say it's a good little thing. I'm glad someone is out there who's getting off their arse, going to conventions, meeting with creators, fucking describing, showing you books that are worth reading. Comics blogger, and I think his name is Thomas J. Campbell. So I'll give him another shout.
We're trying to make an effort now to post up covers of comics we're talking about during the week on socials, because you understand the limits of us being an audio medium when we're talking about a visual product.
Yeah. So it's always the issue, isn't it? Yeah.
Even if it's just some classic art, just because like people love seeing this visual stuff,
That's why Instagram's so good. I mean, I put everything up. I put the cover of this up, and I put a Kirby Silver Surfer up today, and you're like, both of them just enrich my life as I look at them. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
but sometimes I can hear about a book, and then when I actually see the art and it marries together the concept of it, I was like, I fucking want this.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that will segue nicely to the book that I'm going to talk about.
Cool.
Straight up.
Don't know how you're going to talk about this.
I don't know. Be prepared, because I've all. We were very fortunate.
Always a welcome email.
Always a welcome email from Sean Gabrielle from Handwritten Entertainment, responsible for, in my mind, probably the best horror slasher book I've ever read. Let's All Die. I know that sounds.
I've got to tell you, I think that's close for me as well.
Yeah.
I pitched this to my wife, who's a big horror fan, and she's like, "Why haven't they made a TV series and/or film about this?" I was like, you tell me.
Make a good short-run TV series, isn't it?
And also, it goes beyond what the synopsis is, doesn't it? The story is fascinating itself. So, just a little recommend there.
Quick aside.
Let's All Die by Handwritten Entertainment is an absolute fucking banger. Buy it. But this one, Sean was he very kindly emailed us on awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Very lovely message. Hello, dear Sean. The team of Let's All Die, which is Michela DeSarco, I probably murdered it, coloured by Jan Perrellet, and it's co-starring you. What does that mean? What does that mean? This is their latest book called Thank You. Now, as Dan said, how do I describe this without spoiling it? Well, the only way I can do that is to not really tell you anything that happens in this book. So how do I, recommend this book? How do I review it? Well, I talk about the genius of the fucking concept of this book, because it's a one and done, 24 pages. It's
not a long read, is it?
It's not a long read. It's not a long read, but it is a book. It's about a scenario. It's a horror scenario for anyone who is looking for a specific genre. It is a horror book. It's a thriller horror book, and it is an exercise in both tension building, meta sort of storytelling,
totally,
and the morality of the person reading it. Because the way that this book tells its story, it is talking to you. And it's asking things of you.
There's no comic out there that's ever involved the reader so much.
No, I've never experienced this before, and I know like he's got the printed version in mind, and he said to us, there's a wraparound cover which I'll get back to, because that may be something. I've got a little bit of constructive feedback on about that. But the 24 pages, they didn't go by quickly. And I say this purely because, the artworks, this creative team, fucking gorgeous.
Just nice, clean, clear artwork, yeah.
And it's set in one place, in one scenario, one place. And there's almost...
What, a 5-minute spread of time?
Yeah, 5-minute spread of time. And...
Without spoiling it, how many times did you think about stopping?
Several.
Oh, no, I hate everyone, so I didn't.
The thing is, I had this sort of like, I'm going to read this all the way through, but my brain was going... It made me ask questions of myself.
Yeah. It's so. I think we got to be careful here because
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm not.
Don't want to spoil it. I don't want to take that away from the reader.
Same.
Yeah. It is a book where it is having a conversation with you. That sounds strange to say for something where you're not talking back to it. It is talking to you. I have never experienced a meta narrative. I have seen books try to break the fourth wall, right? Which is what this is doing. Let's be honest. That's what it's doing. It's breaking the fourth wall.
Well, there's almost no fourth wall in it. The barrier is completely down. It's this kind of
There's no comedy to this. There's no wink wink. There are questions to be asked of you, and I personally absolutely fucking adores the experience of this book. And I call it goes beyond the comic and end-to-end experience, because I was thinking about it afterwards, and it demands to be reread and reread and reread, but also asks you the question, should you reread this? And that is fascinating to me. I think what they've done here, which is probably, you can tell some, I can almost sense they've sat around a table with a coffee and just be like, wouldn't this be a good idea if we did this and we did this and we did this and it was all set in one thing? That could be as simple as that. But the execution is it's one of my comic standout moments that I've had this year. It came out of the blue and it just slapped me across the fucking face. I was like, oh, cool, we've got this. Love these creators. Let's read this.
It's one thing having the concept in your head and suddenly waking up from a dream and thinking, oh, that'd be good, or seeing the buzz. But executing it into a comic and pacing it like that is actually, I think, the more difficult thing.
Yeah, and it's well done. It's really well done.
Yeah.
It's hard to think anything on this which they could improve on it.
No,
I just think it's just...
The only maybe constructive thing, when we were talking about feedback, is I understand the concept of the front and back cover. I think the back cover, perfection.
But you've got to be careful when it's digital, you're saying,
Yeah. And maybe, but also the concept itself, because it's called Thank You. But when I look back on it and I was reading it, the figure that's on the front cover looks a little too happy. And they're saying thank you. After reading the book, I don't necessarily think that's what would be said. Maybe.
Yeah, that's not the message the book gives you, is it?
Yeah. It's almost like that would be written on the wall behind them, possibly, but not something being said. I almost feel like that figure, who is an amazing character in the book, you really get a connection with this character, but it almost feels like they should be just those comic panels where a comic character stares
just straight at you,
and they're almost judging you. It should be that kind of cover. Which then leads you into the story.
Nice big eyes looking into your soul.
Because the first page is a splash page. Immediately, the tone was like, where are we going with this? Because it's immediately says on that. So if there was a criticism, that's my only one of this book. That the cover, I like the idea.
Maybe that's the point of it.
Yeah, I do like the idea of the wraparound feel of it, and I think the back cover is almost, perfection in the way it finishes like that. But maybe, it probably wouldn't work, but I know the book is called Thank You, but it almost shouldn't have the title on the cover. Did that make sense?
I agree.
It almost shouldn't say it on the cover.
How can you even have... What could he call it, though?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like to have a cover without the title would be... It's redundant for a comic, but you wouldn't know what it is. You've got it on the credits page, which is cool, but
I know we don't like to compare things to films, but this is definitely... It's easier sometimes with horror, isn't it? Yeah. It's a short horror movie.
Oh god, yeah. This is like
it's like a film you'd see at a horror festival.
Yeah, and it's like one of those, the classic, creepy, eerie, all of those sort of creep show sort of things. Just taking a little bit more time with it, but on a real personal level. This was.
Yeah, this could easily be an eerie or creepy or any of the EC books.
And this is going to be easily, like you say, Tony. This is probably going to turn out at the end of the year recommends and talking points. This is a fucking talking point, I think.
Which is, horror lends itself to the one-off, doesn't it, to me, rather than the continuing story. Because once you have a horror as a continuing story, it becomes more of a soap opera for me. I think to have a horror concept, bang, 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 done. It's almost
that's
like
the point of having a strong concept, and it gets delivered, then it's done. You move on, you do something else.
I think the best way, if you were to sign off this high recommend, which Sean, please let us know when this is going to hit, if this is going to hit crowdfunding or whatever, because
I'm all over this.
We're just going to shout about this because this is a stunning piece of work. And as I always say, listeners, hopefully we've skirted around it without spoiling anything. You do need to go into this cold. Because
don't read reviews or anything about
it. Because people will spoil it.
If you spoil it, you'll never get it back.
Yeah, and to I would almost say if it's crowdfunding or something like that, to the creators, please be careful what you put on the campaign because it's almost a book that screams, tell them nothing, show them nothing. Yeah. Maybe a couple of panels, but
because we've literally said nothing about what happened in the comic. No. As soon as you do, you kind of you ruin it.
Yeah. I would say
they must be thinking, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but when you read this book, the best similarity I have to it, and this is twisted to think about it, this book is a car crash on a motorway. And when you're approaching it,
not literally.
Yeah, it's not a car crash in that kind of, but when you read it, you'll understand. And it's just fucking epic. Thank you. Handwritten Entertainment. You can go to handwritten-entertainment.square.site to for all their other books like Shark Squatch, which is a shark crossed with a Sasquatch. I didn't know. I need to read all of that.
I went Sand Sharks the other day.
Oh, nice.
Oh man.
And it's got all of the issues. I mean, all of Let's All Die are out of stock. In fact, I think most of the books are out of stock. So. Sean, point us in the way of the digital so we can get people there. And there's a couple of other books. And one thing, when I scrolled down, they do Pog sets. Do you remember Pogs?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, I've never seen that before as a bit of comics.
They were never that big in the UK. I think in the States they were a lot bigger.
Yeah, there were Star Wars ones, weren't there? Do you remember?
Yeah.
You get Alf Pogs. Remember Alf?
Yeah.
Alien life form.
Yep. So there you go. Handwritten Entertainment, and thank you to Sean for sending it through. And send our regards to the rest of the creative team because this is wow. Dan, what would you like to recommend?
My one, I was just reading the intro on it, but it's Grendel, Devil's Crucible, Defiance.
Oh, this looks.
You got
great.
me into this one, didn't you, T?
I love Grendel, man. The new version of Grendel, which is what's featured in that one and in the stories before it, my favourite actually, I think.
It's I didn't realise there's another one after the one one of my favourite Grendel ones. It was Grendel's Devil's Odyssey, and this carries on with Devil's Crucible.
What's this one called? Devil's Defiance, did you say?
This one's called Devil's Crucible Defiance, and the one previously was Devil's Odyssey. You might remember this. It used to Grendel Warchild ran in one of the A4 oversized comics that used to get reprinted in the UK. It used to be part of. You got so many pages of that, and it would be like another thing. I can't remember. Was it Maximum Overdrive or something like that?
Well, I'm not sure actually.
It was definitely like. But they used to feature in that. That's when I first saw it, and then I was like, okay, off we go. So I went into the comic shop and started getting the single issues of Warchild, and then I recently a couple of years ago, got the trade off of eBay because it's not printed anymore, so second hand. And I managed to snag a copy, so I thought I'd quickly look one up. There's fucking loads of them now. It took me ages. I had to add it to like my eBay wish list, and it took months for it to come up, and I grabbed it. But it follows Grendel Prime, which is kind of he's like a cyborg from like the waist up, isn't he? He's only got like a torso and head, and he's always bopping around in this black armor with the Grendel eyes. The fucking design on him is absolutely awesome.
Wagner's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's Wagner with his son, isn't it? Brennan's his son.
Yeah. So this is done by written, created, and drawn by Matt Wagner, colours by Brennan Wagner, letters by Rob Lee. What I love about his artwork is everything's chunky and got weight to it and feels like it's occupying a space in the world, and it's just so appealing. But essentially in this story, the Grendel Prime comes back down to Earth 500 years since he's been away, and it's kind of completely and utterly different to the world he's left. Everything's kind of, sometimes you see in post-apocalyptic films where all the society breaks down and all the buildings are crumbling. It's gone beyond that, where now green and fauna has overgrown everything, and it's sort of beyond like a Mad Max style society where a rougher barbaric society has grown up in its place.
But also there's this sort of city building, isn't there?
Yeah,
where we don't know yet what's happening in it, which I like as well. Which I guess is where the protagonists, the antagonists, come from at the end.
Call themselves the Necrolords.
That's
we yet to find out what they are, and they're sort of lording it over. And there's signs everywhere, basically saying Grendel's are completely outlawed. So since he's got this kind of like sort of leather mask, would you say it's kind of armored? He has to kind of put this motor oil on his face, so he's just got like the 2 dots, and the rest of it's not there. And he goes into this market, and it all starts fucking kicking off. It's an issue 1 of 4. I really recommend checking it out. If you haven't seen the like War Child, I'll be going back and digging up Devil's Odyssey, because it's great.
That's I think that's 8 issues, that one. So he's in space trying to find a planet he can repopulate the Earth.
Right. Okay.
And I think he fails, and he comes back to Earth in this one, but it's obviously a long time later.
It's just an absolute shithole.
And he's a fucking beast.
Yeah,
it's like he's a great, incredible warrior, and really.
I think Grendel's got one of the best mask designs in comics, like full stop. And I think about this at the moment because in the room that Dan's in, there's a little Venom poster.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Back.
Yeah.
But Grendel came first.
Yeah.
Grendel's from Kamiko, early 80s.
Yeah.
So you can buy T-shirts that are just those 2 eyes on a black background, which are lovely. Yeah.
It's kind of like, for people who haven't seen it, like the Venom eyes, but there's 2 like vertical slits that run down the middle.
It's almost like with an Eastern influence art-wise for me.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Grendel takes various forms through history.
Yeah.
So there's Hunter Rose, and there's all these different characters who are the Grendel, and they're this creature for different reasons.
Because the first Grendel book I've got is like also almost very prose-like. That's the one.
Yeah, that's right. Down the sides.
Yeah.
And the Grendel's got like a staff with a double-pronged blade on the end of it in that one.
That's one. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah,
because in the original, it's very much the lone wolf and cub, where Grendel Prime is escorting like the heir to the kingdom in this kind of motorized bike with a sidecar.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And going through all this fucking shit, and he's an absolute, like you said, Tony, he's a beast, but he's absolutely callous about his sort of, it's almost Terminator-like quality.
Yeah.
There's one issue when they're crossing the sea, and they get attacked by a load of pirates, and he says, "What we've got to do is kill a load of people, put them on the deck, and we'll make it seem like we're kind of all abandoned ship, and then when they board, we'll jump on and kill them." And there's a huge battle, and only the 2 of them are left, the kid and him. And he's just like, that's what we do.
If you like that, you've got to read Mage, which is one of my other. I'm a massive Matt Wagner fan. Mage is just because Mage is kind of him mixed up in Arthurian legend, but it's fucking beautiful. And then some of the Batman Shadow stuff he did, and there's so much out there that's just great. He's such an incredible creator. When you think that Mage was 3 books of 15 issues that came out between the early 80s and the 2010s, it lasted that long. But the character in each book replicates his age.
Yeah, because I can remember the late ones. He's kind of like all balding with his hair kind of pushed back,
a bit thicker set. Yeah, very good.
That's great.
Nice. Yeah. Tony, have you got another one for us?
I've got one more. Yeah. So one more is Harmony Coffee. A Curious Machine by Richard Kemp. I met Richard at Heroes, and I think one of you guys replied to him on Instagram because he wrote in. Yeah. Super nice dude. And when I met him, he had this like real fatalistic attitude towards what was going on at the convention, because he'd been, and this will hurt people's hearts who are from the small press scene, his printers had let him down and the books hadn't arrived.
Oh.
And he was stuck at a table with like postcards or bookmarks and business cards next to his mate, who incidentally is also the editor of this book. But he decided just to make the most of it. And I signed up for he had one of those QR codes you could link to, and it sent you to his Substack. So I signed up for his Substack. And he was saying Joseph Christie is the guy, and we reviewed his book Well Digger about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah.
So he was his buddy. He was also the editor of this book, actually. And I signed up for his Substack, and he very graciously mentioned me and Cliff coming to the table, referred to us as funny English podcasters or something. I think was the phrase he used. So I thought that's nice of him. So really strong black and white cover. There's a humanoid robot who's the center of the story in this, with just that classic humanoid shaped head, but a big camera eye in the middle of it, which I really like. And he's wearing a black suit with a white shirt and a black tie, which is just a great little look, I think. Everything's got that 50s space age building silhouette about it. You know, like what the people in the 50s and early 60s thought the space age, like the Jetsons. Yeah. You know, so that's the best example of it, a bit like that. I know the Jaime Hernandez did a version of that in some of his Love and Rocket stuff. Just a bit like that, very eye-catching, great little cover. The story is divided into chapters. This is the first chapter. It's the first issue of a series. It opens in the Atomic Diner at night. And the robot, whose name is John Sparks, good name, is confronted by a woman called Stella, and he pulls a blaster out. And the last scene you see is him firing the blaster. And then it rewinds to how you found yourself at that story. Turns out that John Sparks is a private eye. He's narrating the story. I like that noir feeling. I'm massively into stories narrated by the main character. Just a big thing I really like. And his big eye is also Cameron. He's been hired by a wife to catch her husband cheating. And it turns out, like all good film noir tropes, that it's not as simple as that. And there's a big chunk of cash, a drugs buy, and a deadly double cross that complicates matters in this story. It's part one. It does all the necessary work. I will say it feels a little light for a first issue. I would have rather had maybe twice the length of this kind of story. Okay. But do you ever read Mr. X? You ever read that comic? The Hernandez brothers worked on it as well.
No, not read that one.
Jumps about a couple of comic companies, but it's got that sort of noir future feel to it, which this has as well, which I really like. And there's certainly some L&R moments in this. Maybe a bit Mike Allred, but in black and white. That sort of
feel. Yeah.
Nice strip, but I really like his dialogue. I think people make the mistake of writing too much when people speak, and apart from us who speak a lot, people generally speak in short, punchy sentences, don't they? And especially when you're interacting physically with someone on a comic page, you don't need that much to be said to indicate. You're relying on the words and the art, and he does that really well. Especially when you're playing with a stoic PI, private investigator character. Just happens this one's a robot, but in all other essential terms, he is human. He just happens to be a robot in the future. There's this hint of this relationship thing going on as well. But yeah, really good, really iconic. I've got a business card from him, and it really he's got the cover as the icon on the business card. Nice. There's a lot to be said for professionalism. We mentioned previously in this. Really like it. It's called A Curious Machine by Richard Kemp, and you can find him on Instagram. And he'll probably, I'm guessing you can buy a digital copy, but yeah, look him up. There you go.
Nice.
Awesome. That sounds, great.
Tons of great comics.
Dan's grinning, looking at the screen. I'm always a bit curious when he's doing that.
He did a good sign off.
He's just happy to be here, Tony.
Yeah.
As a week, because we're always happy to be talking about comics, and there's tons of great comics for you to add to your wish list. Be on the lookout for. Support your local indie creators as always. Show them some love because they're putting out some good work, and we are always looking forward to reading new and interesting books on this show, as we've talked about this week. And there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media on X and Twitter, or Twitter, whatever you call it. It's at the Awesome Pod. We're on Instagram at awesomecomicspod. Please like our posts and algorithms and all that shit. Do you know what I mean?
A share and stuff.
Do a share, because we're trying to share the love of comics. So, and hopefully you
do a share, because we share so much of other people's comics on it. Yeah, we never push ourselves on people, do we? But fucking hell, pull your finger out.
Yeah, and you never know who might be listening. Says as he looks over his shoulder. We're also, thank you for listeners, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave a review, helps get the word out about the show. Same thing, we're just going to shamelessly do it. Please share the show, because we enjoy doing this. So
we do. We still do.
We do, and there's plenty more comics to talk about in the future. So, and if you listen to us on Spotify, leave us a nice review, leave a comment or whatever. And if you listen to us on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, What other networks are we on, Tony?
Well, we're on the podcast network for the Earth 2 pod, and you need to listen out for Serlin the Magician, because he is the Rod Lord of Shagtown.
Which is quite possibly the best description of
Yeah,
anyone in the history of anything.
Yep.
So thank you for listening to us on that network. And where can people find us in the meantime, until next week's show? Where can people find us online, etc.? Tony?
Shagtown.
There you go. Does that have a postcode or zip code?
BJ24.
Oh,
Yeah. House number 69.
247. Jesus Christ. And Dan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, aka X, at Vanguard Comic, and read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
You live on the outskirts of Shagtown, don't you?
He's visiting Shagtown most nights.
Yeah. Lives on Pump Lane. You can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. I do it for Tony's laugh, Tony's silent laugh, which is all in his shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Much like everything else he does.
Jizz Avenue.
I wanna rock down to
Jizz Avenue. And then I'll make it higher. Never goes down if you look at it.
Oh, we are getting musical, so we're going to go and read some more comics. Join us next week for more fun from Dan, Tony, and myself, wherever you are in the world. Just keep reading great comics, letting us know what we should be reading, and send your comics into us, etc. All that good stuff. We hope you're enjoying the stuff that you're making, reading. And as always, from all of us in Awesome Pod at HQ, well, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Nice. Dan's still doing the lead in.
Yeah. I'm fuck about.
It's like big trouble where they all do this, don't they? They all do this with each other. Yeah.
I watched that the other day because it was like 30, 40 years old, whatever it was. And I was like, man, this fucking film rocks.
I say lines from that still every week.
I just got to say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.